Welcome everyone to Conversations with the Academy by Intuition, where we uncover the most powerful strategies for navigating risk in today's business landscape. In this session, we'll dive deeper into the Enterprise Risk Transformation Certification, designed to help leaders and professionals future-proof their organizations. We'll be hearing today from Dr. Christopher Goh, a global expert in enterprise risk management, and he'll guide us through the crucial aspects of risk transformation. So let's dive into today's conversations. But before we begin, Chris, can we find out a little bit more about you, your work experience, and also your experiences around facilitation and running these types of certification? Over to you, Chris.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Janita, for the opportunity to share some of my experiences in risk management. So there are two phases in my life. The first phase is where I spent about 25 years working for 6 different banks. During that 25 years, 13 years, I focused on risk management and started my journey being sent to University of Toronto for 6 months to learn about risk management. And that was back in 1989. That's how I started my journey. And after that, I came back to Singapore to set up risk management, and followed by 2 other banks that I set up totally from scratch. And my last appointment was the Asia Pac for risk management. In those days, we haven't changed the name into the what we call the chief risk officer. We haven't changed it, but just head of risk.
Right.
And the second phase is when I left the banking in 2004. And this is where I transitioned into working with different professional bodies.
Yes.
They are issuing the certificate in risk management, but they allow me to create the content, modify the content that they have, and work from there, and allow me to brought me to different places to conduct different training from in-house to public. I've trained more than 1,000 people in Africa, in Middle East, in Asia.
It's great. It's a
Middle East
global-
and Asia, there'll be probably another 1,000 over the last 20 years.
Wow.
So that was quite amazing. And until 2021, this is where I get the opportunity to join the Swiss Institute of Management and Science, SIMS we call it, to be the head, to be the dean rather, of the banking and financial sustainability, the head, and also as an executive director for all the short courses. So I've developed about 8 different programs.
Okay.
And most of it in risk management, and I move and covering compliance and also covering GLC, and lastly will be sustainability. So that's about the long shot of myself.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you for sharing. I think it's interesting to see how you've moved, and also how the risk aspects of running a business, in a bank and other organizations, it's changed quite a lot with the developments in the market. Yeah. So for today's conversation, Chris, we'll actually be covering the 3 topics. We'll be covering 3 segments. The first, maybe we'll hear from you around why ERM matters, why enterprise risk really matters. And then we will touch base about this certification, right? What makes it stand out, right? And in terms of our corporate clients, they probably want to hear, how attending a program like this, especially as a group, it can actually help strengthen risk management across teams in their organizations. Yeah. So we'll dive into segment 1, which is why enterprise risk management matters. Yeah. So Chris, you spoke about how risk is something that every business will face, right? But we also have had a lot of corporate failures. Why companies do not manage it effectively, and there's a lot of failures. So what do you think are the most pressing risk challenges that corporations are encountering today in today's market?
Thank you for that question. I think it's very current that many organizations are facing lots of problems with the ever-changing global dynamics coming from USA, all the tariffs and so on.
Yes.
And clearly, you can see that it is very important for companies to embed risk management. And the way they should perhaps incorporate risk management is at the start of the strategic planning. And this is something that is quite lacking, or that is not put up to speed or to the level of requirements from the external forces, the external stakeholders. So, for example, in the strategic planning process, normally there'll be a director of strategy or senior manager of strategy spearheading it. Usually this person is not equipped or well trained in the risk management. So they're just looking at the different formulation of strategy from the revenue generation perspective. And anything about the cost, they will talk to the accountant. And what is lacking is risk management. Now, in inferring to ISO 31000, risk management has been ISO 31000 since 2009. The latest revision is 2018 February.
Okay.
They put in a bit more things. In the ISO definition, it says that risk starts from the implementation of the strategic objectives, because you need to implement. So therefore, there are risks going on, because the CEO job is to delegate to all the divisional directors to roll out. But each of them got different skill sets, and they are not going to be as intelligent as the CEO, as you can imagine. Otherwise, they become CEO, right? Yeah. So hence, because they come from different background and different experiences, which is good. But then, how are they going to manage? In particular, to new products and services. You see, the word is called new. So no one in the company has a better knowledge, than anybody else. So there's risk there. But in a meeting, everybody will tell the CEO, yes, sir, we will get it done. Yes, ma'am, we get it done. Yeah, no problem. Then the CEO just happily waiting for the financial statement to come out to see a very nice revenue, isn't it? But that don't normally happen. So what ought to be done is a thinking of risk, whether you are especially the new product and services or even existing, because you need to increase the target.
Yes.
Cost every year goes up because everybody get annual increment.
Yeah.
Unless there's no annual increment, then okay, sales target no need to go up. In my last 5 years in the banking, I don't have annual increment. Zero. For VP and above, zero. I was a director, so nothing. But we fight on bonuses.
Right.
Bonuses, huh? So bonuses a lot. Can be 1 year, 2 years, that sort of thing. So we don't care that $300 we get. But not every organization can work this way.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So therefore, they have to look into that. Yeah. How do you measure those risks, especially the new products and new services? How do you watch it? It's like a new baby. When a new baby start to walk, they run. They don't walk. So what are you supposed to do in the house? To you, is risk. To the baby, is it the risk? So along that, when you contextualize it into the company, there's actually a lot of work to be done. And what is the job of the CEO? What is his function in risk management other than, to reach the high ROI, okay, and the high financial targets? What else? Keep the cost low. Is there something else that is important? So this is always the missing part of things. So hence risk becomes more and more important. And especially now, everybody's looking for AI. And that AI should predict what Donald Trump is going to say next. Then they can manage.
You can do that.
I'm also looking for one that I can sell.
Right.
All right. Isn't it?
Yeah. So, very uncertain world, as you said, lots going on and everybody's grappling with the change, right? So when we talk to our corporate clients as we provide learning advisory, Chris, people are always talking about how do we thrive, right, in this very uncertain times. That's a general query that we get as we are crafting learning programs. So in this case, specifically around enterprise-wide approach, right, towards risk management, how can this approach actually change the game, for organizations who want to thrive in an environment of uncertainty?
Yeah, thank you very much. So to extend what I've just elaborated earlier, and capturing the key aspects is to incorporate the number one step of the ISO 31000, the number one step from ISO 31000, and that covers three things. One is your scope.
Okay.
So the scope will include the range of products and services, both existing and new, that you want to do. The second is a context. So the context is to know the external environment. So for example, companies will use Portal 5 Forces to know the industry sector. They look at PESTEL, which is another environmental analysis. They may do a SWOT analysis. These are all great stuff and most companies will do. But what is missing is the way they use all these methods to incorporate into the plan. So what I meant is that in doing the context, actually there are three chapters to appear in the strategic plan. The first chapter talks about how well they have done in the past, the prior. So some companies write their strategic plan every 3 years, some are 5 years, others are annually. So there must be a review, what you have done well. You have done well, is it because you set a low target, so you do well? Could be, right? And you may not have meant it because you're too aggressive. So there has to be a sombre analysis on this, a rational thinking. And people got to agree. The stakeholders got to agree. So of course, initiated by the director of strategy. So that's the first part. So the second part is to look at the current situation and what might be the forecast going forward.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Then the third part is that, after understanding your past situation, how well you've done, and where are the things you miss out, plus the current, then what is your conclusion? Conclusion of the situation you are in. And then you start to relook into the products and services that you want to do. Does it kind of make sense? Are you missing some opportunities because you are too much into the mathematics? Some CEO are very mathematical. They're looking at the past result. You say, I add another 30%. So it's a straight line drawing using the ruler and draw the line, to that extent, which is quite pathetic, right? Because, nothing is on a very linear perspective.
Yes.
And yet people, the way they plan is so linear. All right. Okay. So they forgot about risk. So because they don't have these three parts, so they are forced to do a linear planning. because they don't have these three parts. Once they have these three parts, what is the past, what is the current, yeah, then you do not need to be so linear. You know that
Right.
there are months that is down, there are months that you're up, so things will not be that linear. So you have a nice graph, yeah. So the third thing is a criteria, the basis of you, sorry. So the basis of creating the percentage for the targets. Why 30%? Why not 25%?
Right.
Okay, so the criteria is very important, the basis of setting the targets, and also to measure, to set the controls. Now, very important, what happens if things goes out? What goes bad? Situation don't work, policy change. So what is our fallback? What's a fallback? So sometimes when the criteria is not there, you tend to see very skewed type of results, meaning to
Right.
say that they over expect on certain client to give you the bulk of the business, and the guy pull out, you're gone. So it becomes very suicidal.
Correct.
So therefore, you
Okay.
can see that in this high uncertainty, the more you can't plan very linearly and looking at the number one process of scope, context, criteria, you probably would agree that the context is something that is so volatile and uncertain. So therefore,
Yeah,
companies
for
should be
sure.
actually reviewing their strategic plan. In current times, it's once every 4 months rather than once a year. Even
Yeah.
twice a year, I don't think is going to be sufficient because
Yeah.
you'll be very reacting and firefighting.
Yes, with all the environmental changes,
Yeah,
geopolitics, etc. Yeah,
yeah,
you spoke about strategic planning a few times. You said
yep,
that must come up at the forefront. There must be a alignment that
yep,
must be right up front, right?
yep, yep,
So that's really quite important how that planning must be integrated, at the start of that conversation. So, there's already a lot of risk frameworks in place, Chris, right? As you mentioned just now, even the analysis, there's a lot of frameworks there. So this certification in particular, right? What
yep,
makes it stand out, you think, right? Because there's already a lot of frameworks,
yep,
and yet companies are still struggling, right, to integrate all
mm,
that at the strategic planning phase.
yeah.
So how can this certification help solve that issue for
Okay.
companies and risk officers?
Okay, very insightful question, and thank you, Janita. So globally, there are three major so-called frameworks. One is the banking sector. They call it the Basel.
Mhm.
And Basel primarily focus on the adequacy of capital. If the bank got lots of losses, the loans cannot recover, do they have enough capital to survive? So because it's a global framework, hence it becomes a big challenge that capital is inadequate because it's one size fit all for the most advanced country and the most advanced bank versus the most emerging. They can't have the same type of system and capability, but they are all using capital, which is good, but not enough. So clearly, there are still banks who actually went uh, Chapter 11, okay, or totally bankrupt, and there are cases like this. Now, the second framework is called the COSO, COSO ERM. So COSO is 5 accounting bodies that set up this for the internal auditors. So the framework tend to be biased towards internal audit. How do they look at it? But not risk management per se.
Right.
Then the
Okay.
fallback. So COSO was in 2004.
Mm-hmm.
They were much earlier. And Basel is 1988. That's even history.
Yes.
So ISO 31000 start in 2009, which can understand. So they probably can see what are the other two frameworks in terms of pro and cons. And
Mhm.
ISO is for all 8 sectors. So
Right.
in our program, we are incorporating the ISO 31000 primarily, and then areas where we felt that COSO has a good point and more robust, more effective, then we incorporate some of the small factors that is weaknesses in the ISO, as well as areas of the banking. For example, in the banking, they really go into the detail on each type of risk, like market, credit, operational. So some of these good things are being incorporated into my program. For example, I will use the 7 categories of op risk, whereby the rest don't have a proper categorization of operational risk, for example. So this is the differences. First one. The second thing is we focus a lot on the first step, the scope, context, and criteria to understand. And this is where the scope will talk about the risk appetite, because it's the appetite, right, of the company. How much product and services you want, and why? Why is the reason? So without understanding the context and the criteria, the scope is useless. Why such products?
Right.
So when you are able to put the 3 together, scope, context, criteria, you get the answer, a very holistic answer for risk appetite. And this is what we incorporate inside. That differs from the rest. The third thing is that I've already come 20 years of experiences in training different people, and I've gone into ERM coaching for the last 10 years. So ERM coaching is beyond consultancy. Consultancy is I do for you, but in coaching is that I ask you question. Why did you do this? Why did you omit that? How come you have not thought about this? So using the questioning technique, to bring out the awareness, because sometimes in consultancy it's a top down. When you talk down, people get rejection. When you ask question, people don't mind. So it's a more psychologically friendly method, and it's worked very effectively. So in my 10 weeks of session, there will be ERM coaching. I will tell them, okay, why you do this? Why do you know why you're failing your assignment? So what have you failed to do?
Chris, this is done throughout the duration of the program, right?
Yes, on the 10 weeks.
Okay, and is it individual, or will you have a small group coaching? I mean, it's clearly very powerful because we get that queries a lot as well.
I do both. Some are individual because it's only one person. Like last week, I did 3 coaching sessions. There are 2 guys that came from an NGO. So they are called Mary's Meal, Saint Mary Meals Institute Innovation, MMI. So they're based in Scotland. So they're giving free food, free food to people in Africa. So they are facing, first time they're trying to put in risk, and because they have a lot of problems. So their job is to select the supplier, and make sure the supplier will buy the right type, will procure the right type of food that reach the WHO nutrition standards, and the supplier will send all the food to the schools, and they have volunteers, MMI volunteers in Africa to cook there and serve the kids.
Right.
So that is to bring up the nutrition level and also to uplift the poverty and things like this. So they face a lot of problems. So I was trying to help them to understand why. So they never have a strategic plan. So they say, how can I do your assignment? I say, do you have a financial budget? They say, yes. I say, yeah, the financial budget, because it's a limit, you allocate number of programs, number of kids. These are inside a budget. So these are your implementation area. So work from the financial budget. So then for a moment, say, I understand. I have a budget. We cannot spend beyond the budget. So this is where the coaching comes in to bring the theory into the real
Okay.
world. So I'm able to contextualize. Unlike in a typical face-to-face, probably you can finish it in 5 days or 1 week,
Yeah.
but the participants are not going to learn. Okay, learning takes time. They need to explore, and they can't tell you all the problems. And this was after 7 weeks. Then they tell me a
Mm,
problem, I'm struggling. Say, okay, we do a Zoom.
mm.
Then they show
Yeah.
me their things. They show me the things. See, look, we have a strategic plan, but that's in Scotland, nothing to do with us.
Right.
It's a
Right.
big level. There's no objectives. Yeah. It just says we want to uplift poverty. How are you going to uplift? You are in
Yeah.
Zambia, for example. They are in Zambia. So Zambia is such a huge country. So
Correct.
where do
Yeah.
you start? Okay, problem.
Yeah.
But they have a budget, yearly budget. So the
Right.
money got to be spent. Yeah. And the money you cannot exceed that spending. And then you have problem. They have problem measuring the outcome. So therefore, they have problems in attracting new money because there's no measurement. So risk management go into the measurement. How do you
Yes.
measure?
Yes.
How do you
Yes.
measure the kids receive it? So you go into the detail. Yes, it's difficult, but this is where you start. Otherwise, the donors are not going to put in the money. Your accountability is there.
Yeah. I
So this is
think
where
you.
risk management plays a very important role to actually enhance, firstly, their corporate image, yeah, their accountability to the donors, and probably can attract more money from the donors. So they're pretty excited about it.
Correct.
But without,
Wonderful
yeah,
experience. Yeah. It's really, really interesting to think that yeah, the goal, I mean, it's a social initiative, right?
yeah,
The goal is huge. It's massive, it's very emotional. There can be huge
mm,
impact, but yet operationalizing that and implementing it and measuring it is a totally new thing. And it's great to hear that certification program and that longer process that the students are in, as you guide them through with their coaching. I think it's important, it's broken up like what you said, right? There's assignments and there's that coaching piece. People are also able to reflect on how it
mm,
applies to their context. So I think that certification journey and the way you organize and design and develop the program is actually very, very key. It's interesting to hear. I'll be interested to know what happens at the end of their program and the impact that they're making with that social enterprise that not-for-profit is going through.
yeah,
Great
would love to
example.
share,
Yeah,
definitely.
yeah, they're in the 7th week. Yeah, like you mentioned, 7th or 8th week of your 10-week program now.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Right, right. Wonderful. Okay, but how are the students taking through the assessments? I think there is a final assessment, right? You talked about you referred to it just now. There are assessments in between, and then there is a final assessment. So can you share a little bit of your thoughts and experiences in previous programs that you've run, Chris?
Sure. Thanks.
Mm.
So the final assessment is the summation of all the 10 weekly smaller bites of activities to denote their understanding and ability to apply to a company problem. So we cut it out.
Mm.
So the final assessment being the summation of all requires them to relook at it in a holistic level, in a portfolio level.
Okay.
So they have to put in all the numbers about their company, why this is a challenge, this is a misalignment, this is a mismatch, why they think this is risk, where are the past incidents of near miss or mishap leading to the signature of the CEO.
Right, right.
Now, we are
Okay.
quite insistent on the signature of the CEO and not anybody else. For a simple reason is that when the CEO signs on it, it cannot be silly and dumb, right? So because we
Mm.
put the signature there, then everything has to be looked into. And before a typical CEO will sign, he will circulate this report to all the different divisional directors. What do you think? Do you agree?
Right.
So he also gets a buy-in of all the directors. So when the CEO signs of it, it's very easy for the risk management person. Usually it's not very high rank, he's a manager. He can now go to each of the division directors to discuss further on the implementation or further investigation, because the buy-in has already been rooted in. Rather than the traditional way, okay, that most other companies, training companies will do, is that they will just do the training. So they may not have this portfolio to write. Even they have, there's no buy-in because they don't get the CEO signature. So because you let the CEO do the work among his key members to get the buy-in, and should the CEO disagree, he has to tell the staff where are the areas of disagree. So this is where the blind spot of the staff, that he can see something and yet there might be some areas that he didn't know. So that's also additional learning for both sides. And hence, this become very successful.
Correct.
Most of the people that have trained using this method for the last 5 years, especially, so they all get promoted. Okay, they all get promoted before I can award the certificate. And that was something beautiful. I mean, they went out, they share, and they're proud to tell you, I got promoted. Yeah, and some of them, when they're doing this, they are not given a proper title at all. No proper title. They're
Even
just
when they
doing risk
started,
management.
when they started on the certification.
That's right.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Though the
So,
company sponsor them, but they don't have a proper title. They're doing something about risk management.
got it. Okay. So this sort of formalizes their learnings, and then they're also able to dig deeper and apply it in their context. And then I think what you spoke about, the buy-in from the senior management and also the CEO, is very key. And from their own added insights, they can probably shift gears and look at different areas as well to make sure that that final assessment piece is applicable, right? They can actually work on something within the organization and improve it, right? Change it, or even relook at things in doing things in a different way and more efficient way. Yeah. Okay. So it's great to hear, the structure of the program, is very robust. I think increasingly we are also hearing a lot from our corporate clients that 1-2 day programs needs to be scaffolded, right, by pre-learning, because we have e-learning at Intuition, so that that you can do e-learning at the upfront, readings, and then going into the class, and like what you said, embed that with the coaching interventions where needed, mini assessments along the way, and then culminating into a final assessment which builds and takes from all areas that they have gone through before. So that whole structure is actually very, very powerful. And from what you said, the CEO is also part of the whole program. He's involved. So there's actually buy-in from the top, there's support from the top. And therefore, I think it will be really, really enriching if all these components are in place. And then at the end, the measurement can be there as well. Yeah.
Indeed.
Okay. So accreditation, so the program, is accredited by the Swiss Institute of Management and Science. It is also stamped by the SVEB, the Swiss National Umbrella Organization, right, for approving adult education, and the UK ENIC. So if you could just add in a little bit more, Chris, accreditation, it being so big, right, within corporate learning. So what makes this credentials from SIMS, UK, ENIC, and the SVEB particularly valuable? If you could add in a few more insights from your end.
Sure, definitely. I will start with SIMS first, Swiss Institute of Management and Science. So we incorporated in 2022, and we are instituted in a canton called Zug. It's one of 6 cantons, so we are regulated by their own Swiss Ministry of Education.
Okay.
The second accreditation is the SVEB, which is a Swiss national umbrella.
Yeah.
For approving adult education.
Okay.
Especially these are short courses. They are adult education. They are not the mainstream academic. So being the national umbrella means it's at the federal level. That means
Okay.
at the federal level means the country will accept it. And that is an important part. So once the Swiss government accepts it, the entire Europe and globally, this is actually renowned.
Okay.
Now,
Okay.
the third thing is a UK ANIC. UK ANIC is formerly called NARIC of UK. So NARIC is the official agency for recognizing and comparing international qualification and skills. For the foreigners, the international qualification, so those who are outside of UK entering UK for jobs. So NARIC has to change to UK ANIC because UK fall out from the EU.
Yeah.
So
Understand.
UK ANIC takes over the fallout. This is all the politics, and UK ANIC actually is part of the Department of Education of UK, so it's recognized in that sense. So then that makes it very powerful in that sense. Yeah, seems by itself may not be powerful enough, but with a Swiss Federation adult education body recognizing it, with UK ANIC, it's good enough to go anywhere in the world. And
Right.
lastly is that because I'm the trainer, so I don't sign on the certificate. So I get the vice chancellor or the chancellor to sign. So we have our own corporate governance. So before
Right.
the guy sign, he has to review all the tests and exams. So that makes it proper for any university. So this is how we differentiate ourselves in many areas, not just in the certificate, in our training methods, and what we want to get out, helping the participants to get out the best out of it.
Yes. Yeah, I hear you said that with industry bodies, clearly there's that governance piece, like what you said, everything is run through, the assessments are rigorous, the way you built it within that 10-week program. And there's really assurance of best practices that's put in place, right, in terms of designing the program, its delivery, and the way it's being evaluated as well. Yeah, so it's really, really good. Very powerful. Yeah. Okay.
Thanks.
Yeah, then okay, so that's great. We found out a little bit more about the certification and the certifying bodies. I think that's what our corporate clients will want to be assured of, that there's best practices in place there. I think team learning, Chris, learning as a group, right? There's always a lot of benefits if corporates were to enroll their teams together, right? What is some advantages that you've seen, right, when corporates actually enroll different people from different departments to go through a program like yours? What are some of the positive impact advantages? Can you share a little bit more based on your past experience?
Sure. Thank you very much. This question comes very timely that I just took on a new batch of 12 people.
Right.
For the certified enterprise risk officer program.
Mm-hmm.
So these 12 people come from the Revenue Authority, the Zambia Revenue Authority.
All right.
So they're looking to train the people to be on par with risk management and the latest techniques. But at the same time, they want to implement ISO 31000, enterprise-wide.
Okay.
So there were a lot of thousands of people, probably about 3,000 staff. So it's quite massive. Or 12 people to do it, but that's the starting point. Some of the things that we are doing that are very beneficial to them will be they are each week they're solving as their weekly assignment. So each week they're solving different problems, looking at different area of tax collection department where there are challenges. So they have like domestic tax, they have custom tax, they have personal tax, income tax, personal income tax, and corporate tax, value, VAT, at least 5 to 6 different key departments. So each of the 12 of them are divided into pairs of 2 to look at each of this area. So they are trying to understand. So a lot of them never worked in those places before. So first they go build the quantity, build the relationship, and hopefully they build more trust so that people are willing to share with them. Their colleagues over there will be able to share with them what is it. So they're starting to see a lot of things. And that's a good thing, you see. So at the end of the 10 sessions, and when they start writing the final report, it's actually an implementable report because they start diagnosing where the challenges are at the strategic planning, where the risk appetite challenges to all the key risks, and they will recommend the key controls, the key risk indicators, and how they should streamline some of the processes. So each of them will have one that have all the details and all the statistics. So it becomes a very powerful learning and a very steep learning for the 12 of them. And each week they are finding the aha moment. Aha, I didn't realize about it. And they are also inculcating risk management indirectly because they're talking about risk. So they're building the awareness to all these different colleagues where risk has been silent or risk has not been looked upon as a primary key department or for whatever reason. And they're talking to the senior people. So in the Revenue Authority, they call them commissioner and the chief, the commissioner general. The CG is the number one, which is also the CEO, and the rest are the commissioner and the AC, assistant commissioner, and so on. So then the awareness is spreading. So that's a good thing is that they start to look at their internal problem rather than they solve case study that is alien to them. Because income tax is not like a bank, it's not like insurance, it's not a training company. So they are unique. They're very unique in their nature. But the risk, the type of risk is not anything that extraordinary. They face all kinds of risks like anybody. They will face market risks because if the customers are under the high tariffs, these guys are not going to have profit. So if the Revenue Authority is zooming in at this sector, but now they're facing the high tariffs from Donald Trump, so then these people are not going to report profit at the end of the year. So shouldn't they be switching gear, reviewing the strategy and focus on elsewhere? And look out for people who might actually not face that high tariffs, and they may be cheating the income tax department. So how do you look out for problems? So this becomes
very interesting angle.
So this becomes a very kind of an eye opener for them. That they start to look at areas that in the past perhaps it's more of a blind spot to them. Even they got the mirrors to see, but they never realize that, hey, there's a spot there. So they are now more aware. So this, because they are in bite size, week by week, they do 3 assessments. So this will allow them to learn and also to multiply because they are learning together and they're hearing my feedback from week to week. So they start to cross-fertilize knowledge. So for example, the custom tax now start to have a little bit more idea what the VAT guys are doing and what are their problems. The VAT guys start to understand, oh, custom tax, you got this. So they got land and air. They got no sea because they are in an island. They have a lot of borders. So they're surrounding. So the borders people are bringing the chicken, they bring the cow, to sell at a better price at their country. Then how do you collect the tax? How do you measure the cow? So, and these borders are many hours away from the capital, can be 9 hours. So they got to build hostel there. and build all the groceries and amenities there. So how do you go and collect data there?
Yeah, yeah.
So
Very
these are
interesting then.
things, so these are things that I'm learning, and I'm also learning a lot from them as a trainer. There's so much for me. So I have new case study now.
Wonderful.
Thanks to them.
I think that's the great
uh,
thing about the jobs that we do, and we do learning advisory, designing of
yeah.
programs, and also delivery. Yeah, so I hear from what you said just now, there's a lot of shared insights, right? I mean, it opens up their understanding of what the other teams are doing, so that they can look at risk in a much more unified approach. So it's really, really
Exactly.
wonderful. Yeah. So also what I hear from you is, because you've handled, the teams from different countries, different industries, and various departments. So this certification is really applicable to all types of organizations. You talked about the
Yes.
tax authority,
Yes.
so it's really, really
Yes.
interesting. Yeah. Okay. So you've given us NGOs example. There's also the Revenue Authority, and I think you do work with other insurance firms, universities, and other corporates as well, right? So this would be
Absolutely.
applicable. Certification would be applicable to many industries, across the globe, and also with your experience, like what you said, you've picked up a couple of new case studies, etc. It will make future certification programs, much more interesting. I think there's
Yeah.
a lot more that people can discuss. Yeah. Okay. I just wanted to touch base a little bit more around this, because you spoke about how the teams, as they come together during this program, it sounds like they strengthen, right, their risk
Yeah.
management, and an understanding of risk itself, and they're uncovering new things as well, right? So can you just share a little bit more on why risk awareness should be also embraced beyond, compliance teams? So I think
Mm.
you surfaced some, so maybe you could dig deeper a little bit into that, because that's really quite an interesting viewpoint to expand on.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Other than not, from my humble experience the last 20 years, many organizations start to look into the risk seriously because they have very real and serious risks. For example, in 2016, I did an in-house uh, workshop for two
Mm,
groups of people, the board of directors and
okay.
all the C-suite people, and including the head of risk and the audit for the biggest cooperative bank in Ethiopia.
Okay.
And the reason they look for me, they have been searching all over the world and realized that, okay, maybe this guy we can try, because I've done training in Africa, my background and so on. It's because 2 years before the commencement and appointment of me, they have a very huge internal fraud.
Mm,
Internal fraud was committed by the CEO and the chairman. They both collided. Okay. All right. The chairman is the last signature. So both of them took out $700 million. So, of course, the
wow.
company go into receivership, government take over. And that was a big problem. So usually they came to risk, come to know about risk and they want to do risk because they are in trouble before. And also in 2016, the Ethiopian government changed the laws that firstly, all board of directors cannot be a board of directors for more than 3 years. You got to change.
Okay.
And the board member that's sitting in the risk committee must be trained. There must be a
Mm,
certificate. So my services become in some kind of demand,
right, right.
which is interesting. So this cooperative bank changed all the board of directors because the past regime, almost all of them went to jail. Almost
Right.
all of them went to
Yeah,
jail. Yeah, and also they changed the C-suite of people. So the
right.
new CEO was under tremendous pressure to fix the problem. But because he's new, he will know the problem.
Mm,
He will know the
mm,
problem. Yeah, so all the people are new. So I did the whole training over there. So that tells us a lot about the awareness of risk. Because risk management is always a cost center. There's no impetus for any rational thinking CEO to build a big budget
Understand.
for risk management. It doesn't make sense. Neither will the same CEO put a big budget to have AI and the latest technology. What is the outcome of what kind of revenue is he expecting? Unless there's an answer, then they put aside. So the same thing for risk management usually comes in. And when you hear a big case like this in Ethiopia, then all the banks start looking for risk management.
Right.
Yeah, and all the board directors wanted to have risk management because they feel a lot safer. And even after some of the training, some of the board directors tells me, I think I'm an independent director, but I felt I got so little knowledge. They're independent, but yet they don't have the prowess in risk management. They don't have the lack of the confidence, okay, to know how to go forward, because you can't train the board directors like the way I do a 10-week. They don't have the time. So they only can attend about 1.5 days or 2 days, and that's hell lot of time for them.
Correct.
And yet
Exactly.
they realize that, some of them came to me and say, thank you very much, but I don't think I could do the job.
Oh, really?
And there's a
Okay.
conclusion. Yeah. So they are
Mm.
looking at maybe they should resign, or maybe they should not do the risk committee member.
Right.
Yeah. So
Interesting.
get out and be a normal rather than the risk board member. So this becomes something interesting that I'm also learning and what is actually going on. Yeah. And the other thing is that there's always a misunderstanding about risk management.
How so? In
uh,
what way? In what way do you see that there's a misunderstanding on risk management?
from the company perspective.
Uh-huh.
From the company's perspective. So most companies will think that, oh, so long I have a risk management department or internal
Mm.
audit or compliance, that will suffice.
Mm.
But a lot of CEO did not realize that they are the number one risk owner, because he or she has to delegate all the strategic objectives as targets to the divisional directors, and
Okay.
he or she is being held accountable for the outcome.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, he or she got to know how you delegate. Once you delegate, how do you do the monitor and control? You can't be checking everything, but where do you control?
I
Yeah,
see.
so this is the misunderstanding. And all the people under him or her as a CEO are all risk owners. And all the staff below him are actually part of a strategic plan. And that is a purpose. So this is where sometimes the risk culture don't exist in the company because people don't feel that they are part of the organization. So the delegation of the responsibility to implement the plan was not articulated and explained that you are part of the purpose plan.
Got
So
it.
after a while, people will resign. Okay, they didn't realize you're part of the plan. You see what I mean? Oh, you are like extra staff. No, you're not extra staff.
Correct.
No
Yeah.
company will hire extra staff. It's not football, you see. You've got 11 players and then you got standby because of injury.
Substitutes.
Companies don't run with injuries. Correct?
Right.
Yeah,
No,
we
but
can't
that's
can't
what
imagine.
learning does, right, Chris? I mean, you
Mm,
spoke about how some of the members of the board, even they realize that this is probably not for me, right? From that learning experience, because not only do you raise awareness through you imparting
mm.
knowledge, right? I think it's also in them reflecting, right, in the exercises that you do, in the way you design the program, that piece on reflection is also very key. And I think
Yes,
that surface and people realize that, hey, maybe this is not the thing for me. And I don't think there's anything wrong. I probably it's good that people realize it. And for those
yes,
that want to continue to make risk management a career, right? Clearly they will take on a different pathway and do different types of
definitely.
learning and other types of interventions and take other certifications. This is one of the certifications that they can take, of course, and also other learning pathways. to deepen their knowledge. Yeah. All right, Chris, I will just move on to the next question. We spoke quite a lot about risk culture, planning upfront, strategic planning, etc. So you also spoke about how organizations that foster a strong risk culture, how they can see much more improvements in the way they make decisions, right? So can you share further about how companies that take a more structured and enterprise-wide risk management approach and how they have benefited if they go down this path of taking a more structured approach towards managing their risk?
Thank you, Janita. I think it's a very good question to kind of summarize one part of a discussion.
Yes.
So risk culture is basically the outcome of three very important segments. The first important segment is how do you structure the strategy, the corporate strategy, and creating into strategic objectives, because the objectives are in SMART format. They have specific targets, measurable, and the time bound, so that you can delegate and people can follow up. The second part is the organization structure.
Okay.
So it's very important that the structure must support the strategy, not the other way around. So the structure must be flexible, adaptive, as the CEO is moving the strategy. So that's why a lot of companies are doing project management method. So you bring a team of people from different areas of expertise to fulfill the mission of the project. So that project could be a new product, could be a new services, something like this. Yeah, or portfolio, a small portfolio of stuff. The third part is implementation. So when you do the actual implementation from the strategy objective, the first important thing is how do you map all the processes?
Okay.
So usually you use a process flow chart. No one is going to look at volumes of words, operational manual, procedures. People like to see the diagram. Where's the start button? Where's the end? Where's the diamond shape? So the diamond shape are decision making. And that's also the area that you control the risk. So risk management got to check how these diamonds relate to the fulfillment of the strategy objectives. How, why, and the assessment method there.
Okay.
Yeah. So once you map up the process flow chart, then the second thing is to assign the individual to do the work. So how do you assign the skills? And the two very important, the aptitude and the attitude. The aptitude is very important. Some people are born to be a salesman, but you can't ask a salesman who had a accounting degree to go and find $1 missing every day. The guy go bonkers.
Yeah, you're right.
Same thing. Someone that's good in marketing, you don't go and do something else. So these are the challenges. Then all these activities done by the human must be captured in the computer systems. And you must be able to measure. Once you capture it, you'll be able to measure. And the problem is that when you're semi-manual and so on and so forth, then it adds up to the complication. So this is the part that, and to create the culture is that you consistently do these three things properly. Process, the right process, the right people, and the right systems. I won't call it system, I call it tools, because sometimes system, you don't have the budget. So maybe an Excel spreadsheet will do.
Yes.
Yeah, maybe a simple checklist that will suffice. So the right process, right people, and the right tools. And this is part of my advocacy in the training, that when they are looking for risks, these are always the three things. And you probably will agree with me, people is the most challenging of all.
Yeah.
Then the process and the tools. Yeah. So that's my long shot to your question on how to foster a strong risk culture.
Right. Wonderful. Thank you for that summary. You're right, people at the heart of everything that we do. The processes will support and the tools, like what you said, right? Sometimes simplification is the thing that we need, right? Not necessarily the systems, because they tend to be a bit more complicated. So finding a simplified process is also quite key. Right. Thank you, Christopher. Thank you, Chris. We've come to the close of our conversation in this episode where we discuss
Sure.
the enterprise risk transformation certification. So thank you for all the discussion that we had and your insights, Chris. So some of the key takeaways, maybe just a quick summary. I think the certification you spoke about its global recognition, right? The fact that it can give people competitive edge.
Mm.
Participants who attend the certification not only get accredited credentials, right, but they are also enhancing their credibility, and it helps with their career prospects as well. They also learn proactive risk mastery, right? Because organizations equipped with enterprise risk management strategies, can better predict, prevent, and pivot when challenges arise. Yeah. I think I hear you speaking about strategic planning, which must be done at the very beginning, so that strategic integration is important. The planning from the outset and what goes on throughout the whole process, right? Participants are not just learning theory because they're going through assessments. There's also the coaching interventions with you, and that ends up in a final assessment, which is actually a live case that they can work on. So they're actually working through with you a live case where they can align their risk frameworks with their business objectives, and that's helping people going towards success, right, and making their success a sustainable one. And I think the other thing that came up when we talked about, which is quite important, is really the benefits of enrolling teams, right?
Yep.
So for our corporate clients who wish to enroll their teams into the certification program, there's they can, besides learning, right, and the collaboration and getting shared insights, I think it also fosters resilience, cooperation amongst teams. And what's important is to for all the teams to actually have this enterprise-wide risk awareness. I think that's really, really very key. Yeah. So, Chris, do you have any closing remarks for us?
Yeah, thanks. I'll probably add in one or two more on top of
Okay.
what you just mentioned, which is
Mhm.
actually excellent.
Mhm.
One of the very important takeaway, in addition to what you said, is because of the way we design the assessment
Mhm.
that they need to look into their company. Many of the people doing risk never get a chance to look at the strategic plan. That's always a secret thing.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, they never. So because risk starts from there, and if they don't have an idea, you don't have an idea, then it's very difficult. And this is where a lot of companies, the risk culture is weak because they're just taking orders and they don't get to know why. So there's always two camps of thoughts. No?
Mhm.
One camp will think that, well, we should be open, people should know more. The more they know our strategy, we can get buy-in from them, we can get loyalty, we can align our thinking, we can grow more. Second camp is that, oh, these people are junior, they come and go because we are a big company, they just want to get the status, and after a while they will just go. Then why do we bother to groom? The field is always a plenty. We can always pick, good candidate at a cheap price. So there's another camp. So you
Mm.
get this problem. So most of the people that came to my training, I always will have uh, a session before the launch date that you got to get the strategic plan. So they got to get approval. Do you imagine? They could write proper email to get approval. And the HR and all the key people say, why do you need this?
Right.
So
Right.
they got to explain. And sometimes I got to write a letter to them. What are
Mhm.
they using for? To that extreme. So it can
Okay.
become very, very challenging, isn't it? So you can see that their learning is already so far away from day one. You don't even know the plan. So I'm going to look at risk. What
Correct.
are the
Correct.
product and services?
Yeah.
Rough idea. So
This
there's a lot
critical
of risk in the
piece.
company.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
critical piece even before the certification program begins, actually.
Yeah.
So it's a very good point that you raise, Chris. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Do you have
So
anything
this
else
is
to add? Yeah.
this is one of the important part. We bring up the awareness,
Okay.
and to reinforce the second part would be like they really look into the number one step.
Mhm.
Many of the training company and gurus in risk management will tell you, okay, number one step is called identification of risk. Then you analyze, you evaluate, you treat them. So
Mm.
that's a normal. But number one step in risk management is never about identification. Identification is number two. The first one is to know the scope, the context, and the criteria. Why you're doing this? Why you're selecting this product? Why you're choosing this new product? Why is the external environment? If you don't know the external environment, your products and services are just pushing the product aimlessly.
Yeah,
And
that's
that
true.
don't work in today's world. In today's digital world, you need data. You need data. So you're away. And then you don't have a criteria to measure. All right. So that's my 2 points to add on top of what you have mentioned, which is very, very
Right.
elaborative.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Chris. Yeah.
Yeah. And thanks to you for the
Yeah.
great opportunity for this conversation. Yeah.
Right. So we had such an enriching conversation with Dr. Christopher Goh, talking about risk awareness, where it all should begin, right? And that risk isn't just a compliance obligation. It is a critical driver of business success. So for those of you who are keen to future-proof your organization, please talk to us and we can start to arrange the program for you, secure your spots for your team in this high impact certification program. Thank you once again, Dr. Christopher Goh, and thank you all for listening
My
in.
pleasure.
We look forward to seeing you again in the next episode of In Conversations with the Academy by Intuition. Thank you, everyone.